Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of 100 Feet Road. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Vishal Wooday. He's a second generation real estate investor. He has a contractor business who are experts in industrial setups. He has amassed a lot of knowledge about real estate and is very well networked in the real estate industry. Let's get started. Just from our last conversation, I gathered that you've been born and brought up in Bangalore itself, right?
Yes.
And you've done your entire schooling from Bangalore?
Not the entire part of schooling. I did my schooling and then I did my college, university, the graduation here. And then for my master's, I went abroad and I did my master's in business administration there.
Okay. And this was in
2012 to 2014.
2012 to 14?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been after that right back to Bangalore? Or?
No, I worked for a couple of firms in Middle East. I was there for a year and a half and then returned to Bangalore.
Okay. You've started working into real estate and the contracting business. How long has it been for you? And where did you start? When did you start?
I returned to Bangalore sometime mid 2015.
Okay.
And I got into the business. The business was being carried by my mom and dad, so they were looking into it. So, and eventually they retired, and now it's me who's looking into the things. When you talk about business, we were primarily into contracting services, and then later on we became developers. That is one wing. The second thing is land investments and acquiring properties on rental returns, based on rental returns. So, yeah.
And this was primarily on the commercial and warehousing side.
Commercial and industrial rentals, yeah.
So you have that was your first bit of business, that the
Yes.
day job or whatever we want to call it. Apart from that, you invest in commercial and warehousing real estate as well.
Like I told you, that's something which my parents used to do. And I did realize that there's another opportunity out there. And that's when I started digging further into it. And I found a whole new world in real estate when it comes to investment, that is land investments.
Okay.
So there are people who are doing land investments, but in different forms. So there are some who invest in plots, some in open lands. So I do both. Yeah.
Okay. And this is apart from your regular.
Yes.
So this is not connected to your business of developer
No.
and contractor
No.
basis, right?
This is something different.
In terms of so apart from your company's portfolio, I'm here more interested to talk about your personal portfolio and how you've built it, right? So in terms of your real estate portfolio as well. So if you can just give us a breakup of how your portfolio is right now in terms of percentage, like
Right.
split. What's the split?
Portfolio, I would say 30% into commercial,
Okay.
25% into industrial, and the remaining would be land investments. This is talking from my perspective.
Okay. And is there any other investments that you do, or is it focused primarily only on real estate, like stocks, mutual funds, etc.?
Stocks, mutual funds is a very small part of it in my portfolio. So I would say 5%.
5%.
Yeah.
Okay. So primarily you've been
into real estate. Yeah.
And so is there, could you tell us in terms of what is the structure that you have when you talk about these commercial and warehousing investments per se? In terms of how do you go about, or how do you plan your investments into this segment? You have commercial and warehousing both. So from that perspective.
So when you talk about commercial and warehousing, so the investments which go into it, it's typically like, first you need to look out for location of the property. So we typically invest on the land and then we put up a structure, right? So when you talk about commercial, you need to see which part of commercial we are going to target. Is it the retail? Is it office spaces? Or is it a restaurant or a cafe? So all these come under the commercial wing. So we need to first plan ourselves, and that can only happen through market research, which an individual has to do before you come up with a structure. So that is with regards to commercial. And with regards to industrial, whether the premises is going to be used for a factory for manufacturing, or is it going to be used for warehousing? Two separate things. So you can't club the two. So we'll have to see as to who's going to occupy the space and build a structure which suits that particular usage.
So traditionally, people invest in a lot of residential apartments, even when it comes to investors. And then there are certain investors who invest in commercial and warehousing as well. But in terms of your portfolio, you're looking at a lot of land investments that you do. Is there a reason why you do this? And if you can, help us answer that.
See, land investments are way more easier when you compare it with your traditional commercial or industrial investments. Commercial and industrial investments, when you're talking about, it can be a rental return, what you're looking at. It can be flipping the property post renting it out to a particular tenant. And there are a lot of risks, and the rewards are just minimal with it. Whereas when you're talking about land investments, the opportunity for growth of a particular land is tremendous. And I have seen it. I've been doing it, so I have seen that. And the rate of appreciation is way better than already a developed property. And also, to facilitate a transaction, it is easier in land because the demand for a particular land is far better than already developed properties. Because when you have an open slate or an open canvas to paint, it's easier to paint, right? You wouldn't want to buy a painting which is already done and then erase everything and then start afresh. So there are two different ways of looking at it. So for me personally, land investments are easier, the rate of appreciation is better, and to liquidate it, it's easier.
Fair enough. If I have to ask the strategy behind in terms of land can be in the city, outside the city, so there are variations. As per our conversation, it's usually that the land that you pick outside on the outskirts or something of
Right.
that sort, or where there's potential development. So, if you can give us an idea in terms of how you identify these opportunities.
So personally, for me, I have always stuck on to the outskirts, to the periphery of the city limits. The reason being, like I told you, the cost of acquisition is at a lower value,
Okay.
and then you tend to hold on to that particular asset for, say, a minimum of 3 to 5 year period, by which it can double within that particular period. For me, there have been instances where I have doubled my investment in a 2 year time span. And if I say that, people are not going to believe me, but in this particular sector, there are a lot of people who have achieved it. And I can give you a small example of it. Like in the year 2018, I had asked a person to invest on a particular land. He did buy it for, say, 85 lakh rupees an acre. So there was this huge infrastructure which was coming up. There was this huge road which was coming up adjoining to this particular plot. So he picked up this property at 85 lakhs per acre. He picked up a 5 acre parcel. And today the same land is valued at around 3.5 crores per acre. So from 2018 to 2024, the time span is roughly around 5 years period. And in 5 years, it's not doubled, it's like quadrupled and more than quadrupled. So
Which part of the city was
this is North Bangalore, on the STRR.
Okay. That's
Present
the
day
main
STR. Yeah, that's
construction.
yeah.
Okay. And
So, I mean, again, talking about these kind of investments, it's not, again, only the north, even in the south, it's happening, and it's also happened in the east. So, even in the east, I can give you another example where a person who approached me and he told me that, hey, I have this particular property and I really do not have rented it out. It was a residential property measuring 30 feet by 40 feet. So it was a 1,200 square foot plot. He had constructed a ground and first floor apartment kind of a thing. Very small little, I think four houses were in that particular structure. And he was achieving, say, 40,000 rupees per month as his rental yield on the property. And so this person, and I couldn't see anything else which could be done with that property, right? So it was in a residential area. There's no commercial, like you can't exploit it commercially. So I did suggest him to sell that piece of property and invest it on a land, to which he did take me up, and he sold the property for, I think, roughly around 95 lakhs. He sold the property, and I think he invested only 65 lakhs of the proceeds. So he invested 65 lakhs on 1 acre land. This is in east part of Bangalore. Uh, there was, again, the STRR was coming up there, but his land is 2 kilometers away from the STRR, so it is in the interior part.
Okay.
So he picked up the land, and today the land is going for 1.4 crores per acre.
What's the time gap between
2 years.
2 years.
2 years span. So if this is the kind of appreciation which people see, then generally they would definitely grab this, right? It's a far better investment.
And there's a lot of less amount of hassles comparatively when you're to manage on a
Yes,
regular day-to-day
definitely. So the
basis.
only thing you would have to do with an open land is to put up a boundary. So it can be a proper boundary wall, or you can put up a fence also and leave it.
You have the advantage of not having to spend more money.
Yes,
The cost
true.
reduces.
Yes, and for that particular person, like, see, now since his investment has gone to 1.4 crores, he can liquidate it and again rebuy a property which he sold, right? He can buy the same property today. The same property is available at, say, 1 crore 5 lakhs or 1 crore 10 lakhs. So if he acquires the same property again by disposing of the land, he's still left with a margin of 30 lakhs in the bank, which he can do other investments with, probably.
And if I had to, so in this case, you don't have any other obligations of renting out or finding. The only thing you have to do is finding a buyer for the the right buyer for your property.
Yes,
about it.
and
So you're
as of
flipping it.
today, as we speak, the demand for open land is more compared to a property which already has an existing structure, like we mentioned, like your commercial or industrial sector, right? Open lands, there is a lot of demand because one is the city is growing, and if you have picked up land anywhere on the outskirts, on the perimeter of the city, naturally it's going to be included as part of the city one day, right?
Yeah.
So probably in the next 5 years. So if you pick up such kind of lands which will be pulled into city limits, then definitely it's going to appreciate. So, and there's not much you have to do for in terms of the land, like put up a fence, gate it, that's about it, and then you wait out.
What's your favorite, or not favorite, but the best transaction that you've been able to achieve in land?
With land, one of my personal investments was I picked up a property in the year 2022, to be precise, December. So now we are coming to 2024, and it has already doubled.
So this is a duration of what?
1.5 years.
So this was in which part of the city?
North Bangalore, close to STR again. So.
Okay. So STR, would you consider STR as a hot belt of?
As of now,
investments
yes.
for land,
And
right?
also you need to understand, like, see, the value at which I picked up and what the value is today. And obviously tomorrow the value would increase. So if you invest it, if someone asks me a question like, what if I invest tomorrow? Am I too late to pick up that particular piece of property? I would say no, because with land, because the surroundings have not developed, like there's no sort of infrastructure which has come up there, right? So it's going to take time for the area to develop. So till you see some sort of proper infrastructure which comes up there, it can be a government infrastructure, it can be a private infrastructure. Private meaning factories, industries, it can be hospitals, it can be a big, large educational institution. So any of those kind of investments or developments happen in that particular area, that point of time you can liquidate your property. So unless you don't see that kind of surroundings, unless you don't see that kind of development in the surroundings, if you hold on to the land, it is appreciating. And when you are talking about land investments and the appreciation, it will hit a ceiling. So beyond which it will not grow to an extent like how it is appreciated all this while. So this is what I would say in terms of land investments.
And in terms of the investments in land, is there a certain method you follow on a consistent basis to, keep finding these right uh, places or pieces of land to pick up? What is your, method of getting the information, or okay, this is how you identify these opportunities?
See, when it comes to open land, right? Right now it is still under agricultural status. Most of the lands, right? And when you do a site visit, you'll obviously find farmers still cultivating their properties. And what would come up in that area, how to gain insights on that particular
Yeah.
bit, I can tell you, you can find information with the government sectors, particular departments, I would say. And they do put out notifications, they do put out publications in newspapers, it comes in your news, it comes in media, it comes in on the online publications which they put up. So if you go through these articles where people have put up information on what is coming up in that particular locality, and the other thing which I would suggest people, or what I would do and also suggest people, is to visit the property, talk to the locals in that particular area. They have insights, they have information. So if you can tap into the locals in that particular area, they will give you more information as to what is the future scope or what is coming up in that particular area.
Okay.
What is coming up again in terms of infrastructure, what is coming up in that particular area.
Interesting. If you had to talk about or tell what kind of risks are involved in such a investment portfolio?
See, anything got to do with real estate. So if you are buying a particular asset, whether it is land, commercial buildings, industrial properties, or even residential properties for that matter, you need to have a proper legal advisor. So your legal counsel, legal advisor have to be top notch. So if you have your legal advisor knowing what he's doing, he or she again, if they know what they're doing, then probably you're in safe hands and you can make life that much more easier in terms of acquiring a land. That's how I would put it across. And the other risks which are involved is when you pick up a land, it can be acquired by a government entity for development. So you might lose out on your land, but then you will be compensated, and that's a fair compensation which is being given out by the government authorities. So those are the two risks which could hit you.
Okay. In terms of the legalities, there was another aspect where last time we spoke about was the claim to the lands and that part of.
Yeah, Mansi, what has happened over a period of time is when the value of the land is
Appreciates.
no, what I would say is when the land value is lower, people are generally quiet because transactions don't happen, and only when there is some news that some sort of development is happening in the area and the land starts appreciating and it starts exchanging hands. So generally what happens when you talk about land investments, you're picking up from families, right? You're not picking it up from a government entity, so government department, so you're not picking it up from there. So you're picking it up from families, individuals who own these lands. So when you're dealing with individuals and families, what most of the times what happens is the transaction happens. You are the new owner for the property, but then suddenly someone from the past ownership will pop up, like a family member will have a claim on that land, and then the minute they go to the court and file a case on this particular property, and then you're stuck with it legally and you can't liquidate it. So till that matter is sorted out legally at the court levels, or whether you're going to compensate that person. So it all depends on what their ask is, and there is a particular system in place how you go about solving these issues. So this is one of the main things which are coming up now, as far as I can see, and it's becoming more rampant with people coming and claiming ownership and stuff. So this is one big aspect which people have to look into before going ahead with the purchase. That's where the legal team comes into place. Yeah.
And so I'm assuming the seriousness actually gets your money stuck for a long time.
Of course. So your entire investment is stuck, right? So for example, if you buy, say, a 2 acre land and you invested a particular amount on it, and suddenly some out of nowhere someone comes and raises a claim on this particular land that they also have a right to it. So what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do, right? You have to approach the courts, and whatever the legal system is, we need to follow the legal system, and it might drag into years. And when it is dragged into years, so it's just a notional value that you have the land, and based on the outcome of the legal system, the legal
system.
Yeah, so based on the outcome of the legal case, you can own the land. Probably a portion of it might go to that person who's claiming the rightful ownership to that particular piece of land. So if you lose the property, you lose the amounts which you've invested. So there are two ways of looking at it. Yeah.
So what's the practical advice, Vishal, that you would like to give to someone who's looking at investing in land?
For me personally, like I told you, to invest on a commercial asset, one is the pointers, I would say. One would be to make sure that the land or the plot, you buy it on facing to a main road.
Okay.
The reason being, when it's a main road property, you can commercially exploit it. Not only commercially, but also industrially as well. If you're looking at it from the rental per se. If you're looking at it just to acquire the land and to sell, again, you just want to appreciate, you want to enjoy the appreciation of the land and then dispose it off. That is one way of looking at it. But if you're looking at it from the commercial rental point of view, it has to be on the main road. That's the first point. Second point would be the cost of acquisition, because the lower the better always, because you again have to invest on the infrastructure, the structure which comes up over there. And again, you'll have to wait till you find tenants. So there's a lot of waiting period which also happens. So keep all these things in mind. Third thing, have a good legal advisor. That's the third point. Fourth point, make sure the investment, even if it is on the main road, the area has to be developed. You can't invest it out in an open field somewhere and expect commercial exploitation to happen immediately on that particular land. That's not the case with it. So these are the fact points which, if you keep it in mind before investing, do your homework. I think it's good to go with.
Fair enough. And if you had to suggest in today's time, where would you invest your money in Bangalore as of now?
There are two places. One is the southwestern part of Bangalore city, and the other one would be the northern part of the city.
Okay.
So the northern part, as of now, is a hotbed for real estate because there are a lot of developments which are happening. Saying that, even the southwest corridor also is gaining traction, because like we all know, the northern part already has a completed STRR road, and the southern part is just a matter of time when it's going to be completed, and the same sort of developments are going to come up even in the southwestern region. So the southwestern region as of today is an easier access point in terms of acquiring a land, and at the lower price. You can acquire the same property probably in the vicinity of the STRR at a lower price compared to already developed in the north, because the STRR road has already come up, people are aware of it. So generally speaking, a person who holds land, they're not going to give it to you for a lower price because the infrastructure is already in place.
And they've already invested for the upside.
Yes, and they've already seen the appreciation, so you would definitely have to pay more. Whereas in the southwestern part, it's not yet come up, so it's still underway. So you can definitely get it at a lower price and enjoy the benefits of the appreciation. And again, see, if you're talking about the STR, it doesn't have to be facing the STR or the main road. It can be in the vicinity of the road. So that's how I look at it.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope the conversation was useful and interesting. If you have any feedback, drop us a comment. And until next time, thank you.